In 1918, on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, a peace agreement was signed here in France to mark the end of World War I. Whether it's known as Armistice Day, Remembrance Day in the UK, or Veterans Day, like in the US, November 11th is a time to pay tribute to fallen soldiers from the First World War and beyond. France is marking the 106th anniversary of the armistice today with a strong symbol of Franco-British friendship. Keir Starmer is joining Emmanuel Macron in Paris, the first time a British Prime Minister has been in France for Armistice Day since Winston Churchill was hosted by Charles de Gaulle in 1944. We're going to talk more about this now with our London correspondent, Benedicte Paviot. Benedicte, this really is a historic visit for Keir Starmer.
This is a very strong moment between London and Paris, between two allies, two very powerful NATO allies, a lot of history and very, very symbolic that no prime minister since Winston Churchill in 1944 has attended this ceremony. So this new Labour prime minister elected just in July, joining the French president Emmanuel Macron, as we see on screen here, for the French Armistice Day, in a clear show of European solidarity. This at a time when Keir Starmer has made it very clear, both in the election campaign back in June, July, and since he has come into office, that he wants a reset between the UK and the European Union. Of course, the UK that left the European Union because of the Brexit vote. So this is all comes days after Donald Trump's re-election, and of course that will have an effect and consequences. Already is beginning to have influences, and there's a lot of scenario and option wargaming, so to speak, options looking at defense, looking at the Middle East, the terrible situation, humanitarian situation in Gaza, and of course Ukraine. There's also talk of a possible trade war and what those implications would be. And of course this all comes in the 120th year of the Entente Cordiale between France and the United Kingdom, and of course 80 years after the liberation. So very strong, symbolic, powerful, and that word reset. And all these occasions are important in themselves, but they also allow for bilateral talks, and that is very much what has happened today. Here, it hasn't gone unnoticed also that Sir Keir Starmer has met Michel Barnier, the new French Prime Minister, of course, the former Brexit negotiator who so deftly negotiated those agreements between the UK and the EU.
Now, Benedicte, these talks come as there is, of course, a lot of international concern over many things, including U.S. support for Ukraine following the election of Donald Trump. Macron and Starmer will be talking about Ukraine today. What more do we know about that?
Well, what you know is that apart from the US, that has been the biggest supporter so far under the Biden presidency of support, military, financial, to Ukraine, we know that the United Kingdom has also been very influential and very clear from the word go under previous Conservative prime ministers and now under Keir Starmer, that support will absolutely remain. So whether it is financial, humanitarian, military, training of tens of thousands of Ukrainian soldiers here in the United Kingdom. But there's a big debate over whether Ukraine should be allowed to fire Storm Shadow missiles made by the UK and France, of course, deep into Russian territory, played out for months behind the scenes. These missiles actually require US technology, I understand, to be fully effective. And it has been noted by President Zelensky that although Keir Starmer has made it very clear on the phone and at different meetings that he's been at and which President Zelensky has been at, that there will be very strong support from the UK, is that unlike previous prime ministers, Boris Johnson or Mr. Sunak, Keir Starmer has not gone, although he's been 4 months in office, to Ukraine. So now very much, I think, the president's French leader and British leader talking about the different options, also the contribution of their countries and others to NATO and what a Trump presidency could mean for that. So what Mr. Zelensky has, amidst all of this, been calling for is he's been calling for permission to fire the missiles further into Russia for months. as it could help to stop Russian planes taking off before bombarding Ukraine. And we understand that well-placed UK government sources have said that Sir Keir and Mr. Macron had become supportive of this earlier this year. So a lot to discuss for these two powerful countries and their leaders. And of course, all amidst a background of history and collaboration. And of course, what I haven't yet mentioned is they're both have permanent seats on the UN Security Council. So a lot in common, some differences in policy, but overall, what will that support for Ukraine look like? Will President Biden make a decision in the coming days that would then maybe somewhat tie President Trump's hands, or will there not be a massive new injection of either military equipment or finances before President Trump comes into office? That is one of the questions we'll be watching.
Benedicte, thank you for that. Benedicte Paviot there with an update from the UK.